3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GrokTALK.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GrokTALK.com. GrokTALk. Welcome back to GrokTALK, brought to you by GrokTALK.com, those crazy bloggers over there with their squirrels, and of course the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers, who allows us to use the space to have the podcast. I am Steve McDonald here with Skip Murphy, Mike Rogers, and our guest, Yvonne Dean Bailey, who is running in a special election with primary in Rockingham 32. Welcome to
Thanks for having me.
And I'm going to make a stage director decision. Could you hop over one seat?
I can absolutely do that for
Steve,
you.
who hates to be on camera, is blocking the view of you, and you're actually
all right.
We want you here so you could be seen and heard.
Perfect.
And we want you in front of our wonderful poster.
Yeah, I like it.
Oh, well, that's
Looks
secondary.
It is. All right, so we were talking a little bit about the race. You said you do have a primary.
I do,
and
yeah.
The date for that is?
March 31st.
March 31st is the primary.
Coming up.
And when is the actual general?
So the general will be May 19th.
May 19th?
Which, I'm kind of fortunate that I do have a primary, if you look on the bright side, because it would have been that the general would have been March 31st.
Mm-hmm.
So that window there would have been ready to
Your
go.
turnout's going to be a lot better on May 19th, because we're
I
still going to
agree.
have snow at the end of March. So.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
I don't know what to do. I just got signs yesterday. I don't know what to do with them.
Yeah, you
because
see the snow.
You stick them in the snow.
I know, but I have to climb the 10-foot snowbanks.
Oh, yeah, and then
Yeah.
and then you got to keep going back out and
Exactly.
repositioning them.
Well, with snow plows too, I just
That's
I don't
tough.
know
It
what
is
to
tough.
do.
There's
It is.
very few
Yeah,
places
you might want to just try with the smaller ones, the
I
sort
do,
of size.
yeah.
Staple them to the top of long wooden stakes and bang them until they're exposed from the top
go
of the
to Home
snowbank.
Depot after this to get those. Yeah.
or to trees, or
Well,
who knows?
Staple them to
Did-
trees. That's a good
yeah.
idea.
When you get your signs, and now we're getting into the grunt work of doing campaign, which is
Yeah.
something that doesn't actually come up very often. Most people don't understand that. Did
It's
you get
fun.
the wire frames?
Yes,
So-
I did, but I mean, are they gonna rust? I don't know.
They're going to
like,
rust, but
I
not
don't-
fast enough to make a difference.
No,
Right.
no, and even if they do rust, so what? You can
true.
you may be using them for years.
Yeah.
I have old signs.
they're galvanized,
Yeah.
Some.
They last.
Some.
and
they
you
last.
need your supporters to be the same.
I have some in my shed.
Yes.
I have
Nice,
I have
nice.
signs in my shed, metal frame signs in my shed from back when, and they're still fine.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
And you know those H sign, the H,
That's what I have.
the H stands, the
Yeah.
one that's got one crossbar or maybe two. You can actually use them upside down and hang them
Oh.
from something.
That's a great idea.
I've done that. I've got a couple of old Herman Cain signs in my garage which hang from the rafters. I put the H signs in the top and I curved the ends over and I hung them on something. You could hang them on a branch.
That's a great idea. Actually, I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
So
Until
let's
the next
talk about.
storm comes through.
Well, we've talked about campaigning.
Yep.
Yes.
Well,
Campaigning for what?
yes.
Oh, yeah. So I'm running for the special election in Rockingham's 32nd district, which is Candia, Northwood, Deerfield, and Nottingham.
Okay.
And you're running for what?
Oh, state.
New Hampshire
That's
House.
the New Hampshire House. That's the most important
Dog
part now,
catcher.
isn't it?
New Hampshire House. All right, and you were replacing.
Brian
Hopefully,
Dobson.
Brian
yeah,
Dobson,
hopefully
okay.
Brian Dobson. Yes.
So he's stepped away from that role.
Yes.
And you do have a primary, and your primary opponent is Brian Stone, you said?
Yes, this
And
is
then
true.
the Democrats, Maureen Mann?
Correct.
Okay. And we talked briefly about the makeup of the district. You said it's leaning Republican?
Yeah, which I'm very thankful for. So Deerfield and Candia are actually ranked within the top 10 most conservative towns in New Hampshire. So there, we got something there. I think Candia's like +9 Republican. And
Wow.
I think, yeah. And Deerfield floats around +5. And then Northwood and Nottingham usually lean Republican, but depending on who's running and what's going on, it always fluctuates.
Okay.
And this is a
Yeah.
special election, too, so it's really more like a town election.
Yeah.
Then those are the kinds of numbers you'd have to look at.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so you need to knock on doors and do
Yeah.
door hangers and meet people
Absolutely.
and get turnout. Is the Is the state party helping you at all?
Well, they can't intervene now because there's a primary,
Oh,
but
that's true,
they've
yep.
helped with data and that sort of thing. And they're very nice, so yeah, hopefully. Well, yeah.
There's a reason why this camera is on and not the one
After-
that shows me right
After
now.
after you've talked to us, maybe not.
Hey, you know.
No, we're here to support the. We're here to support your race for the party. So, a lot of things going on. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask,
Yeah.
and I'm going to show a bit of ageism here because
fine.
look at the color of this, look at the color there, look at his beard, and I don't.
he's the young guy.
See, now I'm going to have to shave. You told me my beard is gray. I'm gonna
Yes,
shave.
and I can see there's
just
no
grew it
gray
back in.
there.
No, there
You are
isn't.
substantially younger than the rest of us.
Yes.
You don't see that many really young people
Right.
in the New Hampshire House. Why?
That's actually a good question. I think it has to do with a multitude of things. I think for some people, especially my age, I'm kind of a unique case. Number one, I am a conservative woman, which is not something that you see very often.
Oh, you've
And-
got a target on your back
Oh.
already, and not just
I
with the
know.
Democrats.
No, I know. And I'm also a young conservative woman, which is something you don't see very often. And I mean, just pulling from that pool is very small. And then it takes a lot of, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but it takes a lot of guts to run.
It does, period.
Especially at my age too. So I think that that's why we don't have that much diversity in the House when it comes to age, especially because a lot of people realize their interest in politics or like legislating later in life, just because I don't know, either it's not cool to be my age and to be very into politics. I mean, that's just the way it is, unfortunately.
Although you will notice that a lot of the Democrats that are into politics, a lot of the young folks that we run into when we're researching vote fraud,
Yeah.
are young college graduates called from other states.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're talking about millions and millions of people, and they bring 20 or 100 of them
Yeah.
here, and those people are into politics, and that's all they ever do. They'll never
Right.
do anything else in their entire lives. They will come out of college, they will go into politics, they will run campaigns, they will do communications, they will do voter outreach, and
Yeah.
then they'll maybe run for office, but that's all they'll ever do. They'll
Yeah.
never have a real job.
That's true.
You have a real job?
Yeah. Do I? Yeah, I'm a journalist for Campus Reform with the Leadership
Really?
Institute. Yeah.
I read that.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah.
I
Leadership
love
Institute?
It. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Positive marks all
we've
around.
been looking for a young female blogger, and you might be it.
Actually, I would love to do it if you're interested.
We are.
Yeah. I love
because-
doing it for Campus Reform. It's so much fun.
You know,
It's great.
there's an awful lot of links from other sites that go back to Campus Reform.
Yeah.
And I will offer you on the spot, if you would like to write for Granite Grok, we shall talk.
Awesome.
Because
Sounds
we've got
good.
women. We've
Yeah.
been adding women, but
It's,
they're not college age. They're not,
Yeah.
and it's as much as we read and as much as we research and as much as we talk to people,
Yeah.
I can't be the same mindset as a 20-year-old woman or 19-year-old.
Right.
It just can't happen
No,
because
that's fair.
I don't live in that world. I don't talk to
Right.
those people. I don't hang out with them. I don't know what kind of media they consume. I kind of do, but
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter. I still can't look at it through a different set of eyes than my own. Even my daughter, who's 14, who will one day be 20 or whatever,
Yeah.
I'm still not going to get it.
Right. No,
So
that
I mean,
makes sense.
so yeah, I have been looking for at least a year for somebody
Yeah, we
to
have.
fill that role, and there you are. So
Cool.
let's talk about some issues.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's
Where you
go
want to
for it.
start?
Top 3 issues.
Top 3 issues. So number 1, I want to I want to work towards hopefully getting Common Core out of the state, or at least giving towns the realistic option whether or not they can choose it. I know, for example, Manchester is struggling with this right now, where the state and federal funding is being held over their heads, and I just don't think that that's right. I think that number 1, I don't agree with having a national curriculum, but that would probably be one of my top issues. I know that Deerfield and Northwood, which are actually 2 of the towns in my district, that's a huge issue right now, and it's on it's on both of the Warren articles. For Northwood, it's whether or not the town wants to have it whatsoever, and that was supposed to be in Deerfield, but town meetings gets watered down too.
But they're not, according to the law, they're not supposed to screw around with those
Exactly.
warrants to where it totally obliterates the warrant. So
Right.
there's something that you can go after right off the bat.
Yeah, that is something I'm really interested in doing because so the one for Deerfield was identical to the one for Northwood. It was a petition article, and it was changed to, I think the original text was something along the lines of to see whether or not Northwood, and then for Deerfield, the town wants to have Common Core standards. And the smarter balance assessment. And then in Deerfield, it was watered down to form a committee to...
Yeah,
a Jean Shaheen Blue Ribbon Committee to distract people so she doesn't have to take responsibility.
Yeah,
that sounds like a
essentially.
lawsuit getting ready to happen.
Well, I thought that as well sitting there, but...
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that was... Someone brought that up, and they said that, oh, no, that's
No,
not...
Well, you know, it's interesting because I don't know what the activist community is over there.
Yeah, it's
and-
good.
Is it good? You know,
Kevin
because-
Burville is spearheading the whole
And
thing.
it'd certainly be
doing
great
really
to have
well.
you come and plug us into that because, I mean, what we do, like Guilford, you live there. So when things go crazy with the school board,
Yeah.
we have people in Guilford. Wyndham now, we have somebody who's on the school board in Wyndham who
Hampton,
is
too.
in Hampton. And these towns where you get people connected and then you find out who the activists are.
Yeah.
And then you discover that the little petty tyrannies that happen in every school district and in every town
Absolutely.
all the time, always. And you can't, I mean, we're a state level blog. We have a lot of reach.
Yeah.
And people know that. And we have the perception of having reach. So when you take a small town and you start writing and writing and writing about petty tyrant, petty tyrant, petty tyrant, why'd you do that? What's your motivation? Where's the money coming from? People start to go, oh crap.
Yeah.
You know, and that's that shining flashlights, the daylight that we need to have. You know,
I agree with you, and that's why I actually write for Campus Reform, and why I think it's so effective. So I usually do the writing for most of Massachusetts, New Hampshire, around here. We're not too much into Maine yet, but having people or journalists in each area, the amount of light shown on these schools is incredible.
We have always been a proponent, and we've used the terminology of big flashlights ever since we
Yes.
started Granite Rock, and that's really what it's at. So Common Core is one thing.
Yeah.
Next highest one.
So the next one I would probably say, and I think my top 3 issues are probably around the same level, is just, improving the business climate in New Hampshire, making sure that we can get rid of some of these burdensome regulations, some of these taxes. I know that I was on WGIR this morning, and I was talking about, talking to some of the constituents out in my district. That's probably one of the biggest things that we're talking about. And, State Senator John Reagan did an excellent job messaging this with his, I love his signs like tax fighter, John Reagan. And, that's something that I would like to pursue as well. And I know that a lot of people in our district now, they've been hearing all about the budget, and I've heard a lot of people that some people don't necessarily understand the legislative process, and they're like, oh my gosh, like, is that all happening? Like the 35% vehicle registration,
Oh yes.
all of that, like, I'm like, oh, thankfully it's not instant. We have people in the House and in the Senate that are going
Maggie
to work.
doesn't have a phone and a pen. So.
Exactly. So, that's something that I'm definitely going to work towards if I'm elected, and just hopefully reining some of that in.
Okay.
And then my third one would definitely be working to create more healthcare options in New Hampshire, and hopefully, whether that is bridging across state lines or what, but clearly what we have is not working. I know myself, I've lost my insurance, and thankfully, like, I have to go through my school now, unfortunately,
Bet you
because
those costs have gone way up.
oh, absolutely. It's astronomical. And the thing is, I can't, if I wanted to take Obamacare, I'm not covered outside of the state, which is a huge issue because I do travel outside for whether it be for campus reform or for other things, and I do have a lot of allergies, so I couldn't take that risk.
We told people that a lot. I mean, the minute this happened, we're like, you just lost all the hospitals in Boston.
Yeah, exactly. And I have like ridiculous allergies.
Whatever you think about Massachusetts, they have world-class hospitals in Boston.
Yeah.
And you no longer have access to them. So we're going to take 60 seconds. We'll be right back, and we'll continue our interview.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at gerardatlarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
I hadn't played this one yet. Welcome back to GrokTALK. Yes, we are back. Sorry, I'm just bebopping a little bit. All right. It's my show. I can do what I want. It's his equipment, though. He could take it away from me, and I'd just be like me in Skype. And it's not the same. And I say this. I don't say this often enough. This show is successful because of the chemistry of the people who participate. I mean, no matter who we plug in here, you know, it's usually Mike, Skip, and I, but we can bring in Jane, and we can bring in, you know, Susan, and we can bring in you now,
and we should bring in Kimberly more often, but she's off reporting on something most of the time.
And you know, Susan's getting ready for 223, so she couldn't be with us today. But just, you know, the idea that you know, I mean, I listen to talk radio, you know, and like I've said previously, only a few people can pull off a show by themselves.
Yeah.
That they're interesting and animated enough, and they can manage material in a way over a period of time that makes it engaging. What we do is very different, and I'd like to think that maybe we're having a small effect on the way talk radio occurs in New Hampshire, because, you know, this is great. I just think it's awesome. So,
yes,
let's get back to you.
I just wish I had more money to get more stuff.
You know, well, there's a point at which you get too many people, but, you know, that's just more of an audio quality issue than a conversation issue. But the more voices we have, the better the product.
We don't even have enough headsets for the people we do bring in now.
I know, we don't have enough headsets for chairs. We have more chairs than headsets, and so we'll work on that. And of course, Kevin was here earlier, and Kirk, and they said, you know, guys, send us some money. We have a donate button. If everybody pitches in a little bit, we can get another headset. And that's the next goal. So please go to GrokTALK, granitegrok.com, and hit the donate button, and we'll buy a new headset.
Yes, that's what we will do next.
And then we're still working on getting rid of the ads on UStream, because that's interferes with the experience.
Yes.
So, back to your race.
Yes.
New issues. So, questions.
Yeah. So Common Core.
Yeah.
Healthcare.
Yep.
Business taxes.
Yep.
Those are all good and necessary type things.
Yes.
But, you know, with 1,000 bills,
Yes.
1,100, 1,200 bills a session, there's got to be more on your plate.
Absolutely.
So, are there other issues? And if you had your preferences, sometimes this is, you know, this is like saying things are going well. No, don't curse us. What committees would you like to be on?
That's a good question. I'm really interested on being on the education committee, just because I'm really interested in education issues. And it's just been kind of a niche. I mean, like I said, that's where I write for Campus Reform, actually, is because I do want to dive into that niche a little bit. And some other issues that I think are really important in New Hampshire. I don't know if you're looking for specific bills or just general issues.
You can just generalize.
Yeah.
There's lots of bills for every issue. So.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really interested, and I think we were talking about during the break about voter law issues. And something that drives me nuts is I think we do need to have stricter voter laws in New Hampshire. You know, I think that if you were voting in New Hampshire, you should be a New Hampshire resident. I don't think that's too much to ask.
What a concept!
What a concept, right? And I know for Campus Reform, we actually had an article about a professor at UNH that I believe it was during class time was driving students back and forth to the polls in a van with big Maggie Hassan stickers and Gene Shaheen stickers.
They do that all the time. Yeah, they have buses at Keene State, they have buses at UNH, and Durham, and everywhere. So.
And the thing is, how many of those kids live in Massachusetts or
they do.
Vermont
And
or
we have Ed Nail on a lot, obviously, CNHC, that's his bread and butter right now. Anybody with any driver's license can come into New Hampshire and vote.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, what's the problem? And I'm like, well, they're voting for your representatives to spend your money.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, then they leave and they don't pay it. They don't pay the taxes. They just come and vote for you to pay them.
Yeah, I knew someone that was, and I gave him so much hell for this afterwards, but he was here on a vacation and he wanted to vote. He's from South Carolina.
Do you have his name?
I'm not gonna call him out on air.
Oh no, you can give it.
He's a good Republican though, so it only helps, I guess. I don't know.
Well, we oppose it all. So
voter fraud is voter fraud.
No, I agree with you, but I gave him the grief that he deserved. Trust me.
The whole point between an absentee ballot is so you can vote.
Where you're actually registered, not just where you fancy voting today.
And there are very few states that totally screw over their populations the way New Hampshire does when it comes to voting. So.
No, I agree.
Well, back to school and education.
Yes.
Right now, the norm
Mm-hmm.
is government-owned, zip code-oriented,
Yes.
property tax-oriented type stuff.
Yeah.
We have constantly seen the idea of the tax voucher tax credits to businesses
Yeah.
now starting to filter through in a lot of different states. It's getting its growing pains here in New Hampshire. The union-backed people are absolutely assaulting it in the court systems and all of that, but we see the private schools, the charter schools, the online schools, the home schools. We're starting to see that breakdown of the top-down centralized system into a more decentralized way of looking at things. Where do you stand on that type of environment? What end of the spectrum?
I think that, every student learns differently. And I have had the pleasure of being able to attend a wide range of schools. I started off at my local public school. That's where I had, middle school, elementary school, that sort of thing. And then I went to Co-Brown, which is a semi-private school. And then I ended up at Phillips Exeter for the last 2 of my years. So I've had the full range here.
Did you get the Muslim indoctrination at Phillips Exeter?
You're
You're going to be careful about that because you're running for office. I get it.
Well, I've gotten that question asked a lot of times, and I will say that at Exeter, although the majority of the population is very liberal, I really think that they taught me the process in which to think rather than you should think this way and you should vote for these people and this is what is right. But I really think that we had a unique environment in which if we had our own ideas, which I was the lone conservative, but we were able to develop them further and sort of go about it that way.
I say, when my kids go to public school, I said they're supposed to teach you how to think, not what to think.
Yeah, exactly.
The process of thinking, the process of reason.
Right.
They don't teach that.
And that's something that I found more at Exeter at a private school than I did at a public school, because at a public school I believe that I was much more ostracized for what I thought. I mean, my best friend and I were the two. She's more libertarian based, but we were the only two ones.
Free market people.
Yeah, exactly. And our teachers didn't even know what to do with us. They were like, oh jeez.
Well, in some ways it's bad because you do find yourself picked on and bullied. Although
I think it's worth it. It's 100% worth it.
Because you are forced to sharpen your arguments.
And the one person whose mind you change is 100% worth it. You know what I mean? Like that one kid who's on the fence and you're like, hey, like this is what I believe. Like what you're necessarily being taught most of the time isn't the end of the story.
And see, I am in favor of the plethora of choices because of exactly what you said.
Yeah.
What's being taught in our public school systems, and you just basically validated what a lot of us think.
Yeah.
They are being indoctrinated to
Absolutely.
think a certain way versus here's how you read, here's how you do the math, here's your history.
Yeah, the concrete facts and the thing is, a lot of kids come out of school not knowing the concrete facts that they need
Yeah,
to.
that's another problem.
Yeah, whether it's getting a job or so on and so forth. But, I do agree that the school children in New Hampshire need options. Not every person learns the same way. For example, online schools are great for some kids that need just either to be like a more solidarity in their learning, just whether it's going through it at home or going through it with a parent at home or so on and so forth. And then there are private schools and charter schools, and students that want to attend these schools should be able to. For example, I could not afford Phillips Exeter. I'm going to say it. I cannot.
Not many
people can.
Exactly.
I've been working for 40 years and I can't afford Phillips Exeter.
Right. And they were very, very generous in giving me 100% full tuition. And, that's not something every kid in New Hampshire should get. But I think that if you qualify to attend a school in New Hampshire, then I think you should have that option.
The money should follow the student is what I always say.
The money should follow the student. Exactly.
And a lot of the union folks or the people owned by the unions get really ticked about that because they seem to be entitled, and I'm going to ask you your opinion on what I'm about to say.
We only got about a minute, so.
Well, never mind. Let's get to the contact information.
Okay, I have your website.
Yes.
Dean Bailey 4 NH DEANBAILEY 4NH.com.
Yes.
Right. Email.
Absolutely. Yvonne YVONNE dot Dean DEANBAILEY @gmail.com.
Okay.
Feel free to give me a call.
All right, and
Should
I
be
know
okay. Yeah.
Kevin McHugh at New Hampshire Conservative Majority Project is on board with your campaign.
Oh,
Yes.
that's a plus.
Kevin's
They're
great.
gonna,
Yeah.
They're gonna run some folks up there and help you out, or
Yes, I do believe once it gets just a little bit warmer.
I'm like the
Not happening. Not going to happen.
I have faith, You gotta have just a little. You gotta have a little bit of hope,
I'm the
right?
silent vice chair of that group. I don't participate, but I'm just there, sort of, so somebody else can get in and twiddle with the pages and stuff. That's about it. Same thing with the NHRBC. So.
Yep.
But this is just a new version of it. So, all right. Primary is on March 31st.
Yes.
We'll get through that first, and then we'll move on from there.
And we should support you rather than your primary opponent because you're conservative.
I am conservative. My primary opponent is a little bit more libertarian. I just think that it's the difference between us is our focus. Like I said, and we talked about earlier, like my prime focus is, education, healthcare, and definitely, taxes, jobs, and that sort of thing. And I think my primary opponent leans more towards some other issues that I just don't feel as though are the top
Not
issues.
Priorities for New Hampshire right now.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show. We're gonna turn off Mike's mic so he doesn't talk me into the end of the program. All right. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, great. All right. This is GrokTALK. We will be back next week with more guests. See ya.
Grok TV.